Well, hey everyone, Pastor Steve here. Glad you joined me for today's devotion. We are in the 8th chapter of the book of Leviticus in your Old Testament. And as you're opening there, yesterday I talked about my NAM t-shirt and the church planting effort that we're making as a church in partnership with our state convention as well as NAM and NAM's Sin Network. But I found this bracelet from a few years ago. We have different ones. This is one we made available to people here at the church a few years ago that says, invite, pray, serve, and tell. When we had a focus for 1 year on encouraging us to invite people to church, pray for people who are lost and far from God, to serve people, to serve in the community, and to tell people about Jesus, tell people about the gospel, tell people about our own experience with God and our testimony. And those are still great things for all of us to do, right? We've been talking the last couple of years at First Baptist about praying. This year, praying for the harvest starts with me. And then the year before, Jesus is too good to keep to yourself. It's all part of the same thing, that we are here to be missional, be on mission, be evangelistic, plant churches, share the gospel, see people saved and become and grow as disciples. So invite people, pray for people, serve people, and tell people. Good word for the day. All right, Leviticus 8, to set the table. Yesterday we looked in Leviticus 6 at the guilt offering, and I mentioned that the latter portion of Leviticus 6 gave more teaching about the burnt offering, the peace offering, and the sin offering, and so on. And really, what it did at the end of chapter 7 was talk more about the role of the priest in those offerings. And with the burnt offering and the sin offering, the priest got to keep some of the food to eat. It was a way of providing for them. Then chapter 7, that we did not read in our reading plan, just continues that teaching about the role of the priest in those sacrifices or offerings that the Jewish people brought to the tabernacle and later to the temple. Chapter 8 switches gears a little bit. It's still talking about the priest and the high priest, but what you have here is the ordination service, the consecration, the setting apart of Aaron and his sons. Aaron as the high priest and his sons as a priest. And remember, Aaron's the first high priest, his son's the first priest, and then their descendants throughout the centuries to come would serve the Jewish people, the Jewish nation, as high priest and priest. So here you have the consecration, the dedication, the ordination of the very first high priest and his sons as priests. This is also recorded in Exodus 29, and we read that a few weeks ago. So this may be a little bit redundant. There's some nuanced differences, not contradictions, but just little details in one that's not in the other, etc. And so the chapter begins with the ceremony when the people of Israel come together, and Moses is the one who's installing Aaron as the high priest and his sons as the priest. Has to start somewhere. So Moses is the one installing them under the direction, the commandment of God. And Aaron and his sons, they are ceremoniously washed, and then they are dressed in the clothing, the priestly garments that you read about in Exodus in great detail a few weeks ago. And then there are offerings. There's 3 offerings that are part of the dedication, the ordination, the consecration of Aaron and his sons as high priest and priest. There is in verse 14 the sin offering. And he says there, then he brought the bull of the sin offering. And then in verse 18, we have, and then he presented the ram of the burnt offering. And then in verse 22, it says that then he presented the second ram, the ram of ordination. And then later you have mentioned a wave offering. So what's going on here? Well, the bull of the sin offering mentioned in verse 14, and if you go back to Leviticus 4, the sin offering was for unintentional sins someone committed that they later became aware of. Maybe in the moment they didn't realize they were sinning, but later they became aware of it. And so that's what the sin offering is. And so before Aaron becomes high priest and his sons become priests, this sacrifice is being made to cover sins that they know they have committed, but maybe did not know at the time. It's a part of their purification. Excuse me. In verse 18, the ram of the burnt offering, if you'll remember, the burnt offering back in Leviticus chapter 1 was kind of just a general commitment to God and an offering or sacrifice for unintentional sins that you have no idea you committed and you never became aware of it. It's sort of like sometimes when people pray today and they say, Lord, forgive me for all my sins. They're not thinking about any specific sin. It's just kind of a broad prayer, God, trying to cover all sins. God, anything in my life that I don't know about that is a sin, God, forgive me for all my sins. That's sort of what the burnt offering was. So it's making certain that Aaron and his sons, as they are being ordained and consecrated, are pure of sins they know about and sins they don't know about. Now, in verse 22, the second ram that was sacrificed, the ram of ordination, was not about sins as described early in Leviticus, but after they had been cleansed, purified. This was a sacrifice, an offering made as a form of dedication, consecration, commitment. This was the offering that said, all right, you've been cleansed, and now you are commissioned, you are dedicated, you are ordained, you're consecrated as a high priest and as priest of the Jewish nation, of the faith, so to speak. The wave offering, and the wave offering could be associated with any sacrifice, any offering. And what the wave offering means is you take the sacrifice part of it and you hold it up. You wave it up toward God. You hold it up, and it's a symbol, symbolic of you dedicating this sacrifice, you dedicating this offering, and you're dedicating yourself to God. There have been times when at our church over the many years when we've collected a special offering, or people have made commitments and brought them to the altar, and the deacons or the ushers would hold them up to God, and then we would pray, dedicating those to God. That's the image here. That's what a wave offering is. It's not a specific offering. It's a way of doing something with any of the offerings. And so that is part of it here. And reading this, it just reminds me of how seriously we are to take ordination to ministry. When I was younger, I didn't appreciate enough how holy and sacred this really is. Not that I viewed it cavalierly, but I still didn't grasp the significance of it. And this chapter, I think, really makes that clear, that dedicating and ordaining these priests and high priests was a big, big deal, and you need to be cleansed of sin. And think about it this way. In all the descriptions of these offerings in the opening chapters of Leviticus, it always says that the animal they were to sacrifice was to be one without spot, without blemish, without defect. In other words, don't give God the lame or sick animal. Give the best. You don't give one with defect, with sickness, with a broken leg. You don't give to God the one you want to keep. I said that wrong, didn't I? You don't keep for yourself the one you want to keep and give God the one you don't want. Anyway, I think you get the point. And I think, in a sense, the seriousness of the dedication and ordination here, and those first two sacrifices for sins on behalf of Aaron and his sons, was saying, don't come to God and be ordained as a priest until you deal with your sin and get clean. Don't give God a dirty vessel. Someone's been, in August we will ordain some new deacons, spending time before they are ordained, confessing their sins and making certain that they are clean and pure. We take the Lord's Supper, worship Jesus through the Lord's Supper, through communion, and you return to your seat holding the cup with the bread and the juice. And the idea is that before you take it, you are to confess your sin. You're to look at your life and confess your sin. I'm grateful that when I come to Jesus for salvation, I don't have to fix myself before I come. I just come and he fixes me. He cleanses me. Because on the cross, he was the sacrifice. I didn't bring him. He volunteered and he cleanses me. And I don't have to get ready to come to Jesus. I just come to Jesus. But as someone who knows Jesus and loves Jesus and walks with Jesus and seeks to serve Jesus and grow in Jesus, I need to take seriously my responsibility to repent of my sin and confess my sin so that if I'm going to do something in the service of God, cleanse myself of, well, I don't cleanse myself, but I have to confess myself and let him cleanse me. I don't do this every time, but quite often. Every Sunday pretty much, but not necessarily all three services. Before I get up to preach, I will confess sin and ask the Lord to cleanse me because I don't want sin in my life hindering my ability to be a vessel he uses. I would encourage you as you come to teach your life group, lead your D group. You want to go share the gospel with somebody, confess your sin first. Be a clean vessel through whom God can do something beautiful. If we can, don't you remember what John said in 1 John? If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just, righteous to forgive us and cleanse us. Wow. Confess your sin. It's good for the soul, so to speak. I'll see you tomorrow as we look at Leviticus chapter 9. God bless you. Hey, and remember, invite someone to church. Pray for someone who doesn't know Jesus or isn't walking with Jesus. Serve somebody, do something to meet a need, and tell somebody about Jesus. Tell somebody about the gospel, about your salvation. God bless you, and I'll be with you tomorrow.